The whole thing ended at a backyard barbecue. She laughed while drinking and said, "You're not the guy I'd hook up with or be a FWB with. You're just the kind I'd marry." Everyone went silent. I stood up and left without a word. The next morning, my phone had blown up with messages and missed calls. My girlfriend Susan was begging me to believe it was a compliment. I didn't see it that way. I saw it for what it was, the quiet part said out loud. I was the reliable provider, the safe bet, the guy you settle for, not the one you actually desire. It was a business transaction where I was supposed to be grateful for being chosen as the long-term investment. I didn't call her back. I made coffee and started thinking. We were at our friends Mark and Sarah's place. It was a casual Saturday afternoon, about 8 of us sitting around a patio table. The conversation was light, just jokes and planning for the week ahead. Mark made a comment about me being a good dude for helping him fix his deck last weekend. That's what set Susan off. She was on her 3rd glass of white wine, and she got that smirk she gets when she's about to say something she thinks is clever and edgy. That's when the line came out. The air just went out of the conversation. Mark's smile froze. Sarah stared down at her plate. My best friend Liam, who was sitting next to me, just slowly shook his head. Susan seemed to be the only one who didn't feel the temperature drop. She took another sip of her drink, looking proud of herself. I didn't look at her. I just pushed my chair back, stood up, and walked through the house and out the front door. I didn't slam anything. I didn't yell. I just left. The silence that followed me out was more damning than any argument could have been. My phone started buzzing before I even got to my car. I ignored it. I drove home, put my phone on silent, and spent the rest of the night sorting through the last 3 years of my life in my head. The little comments that I'd brushed off, the way she always talked about her friends' expensive weddings, the subtle digs about my sensible car or my practical hobbies. It all clicked into place. Her statement wasn't a slip-up. It was a summary of her entire philosophy. The morning after, the backlog of notifications was a sight to behold. 17 missed calls, a flood of texts. They started angry, "Are you seriously giving me the silent treatment?" Then shifted to confused, "Are you okay? I'm getting worried," and finally landed on panicked desperation. "Please just call me. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it like that. It was a compliment." I read them all, feeling nothing but a sense of finality. My first call wasn't to her, it was to Liam. "Hey," I said when he picked up, "you got a minute? Dude, are you okay? Yesterday was brutal." "I'm fine," I said, and for the most part I was. "Tell me what happened after I left." Liam sighed. It was dead quiet for like a full minute. Susan did this nervous little laugh and was like, "What? He's so sensitive sometimes." Nobody responded. Sarah just got up and started clearing the table. Mark followed her inside. It was awkward as hell. Susan tried to make small talk for another 10 minutes, but nobody was having it. She eventually left. She looked pissed. "Good," I said. "That's what I needed to know. She's trying to spin it like she was joking." "Nobody thought it was a joke, man," Liam said firmly. "Nobody." That was the first piece of the puzzle. Her immediate reaction wasn't remorse. It was annoyance that her joke hadn't landed, and that I'd ruined the mood. The apology only came hours later, when she realized I was serious. I knew the next step would be managing the social fallout. Susan was an expert at playing the victim and manipulating group dynamics. I needed to get ahead of it, but not by getting into a messy argument. I needed a simple, undeniable truth. Sure enough, a few hours later, I got a text from Sarah. "Hey, I don't want to get in the middle of this, but Susan is blowing up the group chat, saying you stormed out over a silly compliment and that she's worried you're having some kind of breakdown. I know that's not what happened." Attached was a screenshot from their girls' chat. Susan's text read, "Ugh, you guys were there. I told Alex he was marriage material, and he completely freaked out and stormed off. Is it me, or is that a huge overreaction? I'm seriously worried about his mental state. It was a compliment." There it was, the official narrative she was building. I was unstable, and she was the concerned, loving girlfriend. I texted Sarah back. "Thanks for this. Can you do me a favor? Just add me to the main group chat for a minute. I'm not going to start a fight." She agreed. A moment later, my phone buzzed with the notification. I saw Susan's most recent message was another one expressing her concern. I waited for a beat, then I posted one single message. I typed, "To clarify for everyone, what Susan said was, you're not the guy I'd hook up with or be FWB with. You're just the kind I'd marry." I am not unstable and I was not flattered. I am taking some space. I'd appreciate it if everyone respected that. I didn't editorialize. I didn't add any emotion. I just put the direct quote, the one everyone at the barbecue had heard, out in the open. The chat, which had been active with Susan's friends, offering her sympathy, went completely silent. By quoting her directly, I had completely neutralized her spin. Her version sounded plausible. My version, the real version, was indefensible. No one could twist that quote into a compliment. Susan immediately started typing, the 3 little dots appearing and disappearing. I could imagine her scrambling for a way to reframe it. Before she could post whatever she was coming up with, I had Sarah remove me from the chat. I'd said my piece. The facts were on the table. I didn't need to be there for the debate. My phone was quiet for the rest of the day. The social fire had been put out with a single bucket of cold, hard truth. But this was just the beginning. The next problem was much more tangible and much more expensive. The problem was Italy. For the last year, Susan and I had been planning a 2-week trip to Italy. It was her dream trip. We were supposed to go in 6 weeks. Being the planner in the relationship, I had handled all the bookings, the flights from New York to Rome, the train tickets, the hotels in Florence and Venice, the tour of the Colosseum, the cooking class in Tuscany. Everything. And I had booked it all on my primary travel credit card to maximize the points. The grand total came to just over $8,000. Her share was roughly $4,000. She had been paying me back in installments, whatever she could spare from her paychecks. She talked a big game about money, but her spending habits were a mess. A quick check of my records showed she had paid me $1,500. She still owed me $2,500. Now, with us being over, the trip was obviously not happening, but a significant portion of the bookings were non-refundable. The flights had a massive cancellation fee, and 2 of the 3 hotels were prepaid with no refund option. I spent Tuesday evening going through every single booking confirmation email. I highlighted every cancellation policy, every line item that said non-refundable, and every fee schedule. I created a spreadsheet. It had 3 columns: booking, total cost, and non-refundable amount. I filled it out meticulously. The total non-refundable portion of the trip came to $5,800. My position was simple. I was willing to eat my half of the loss. That was my $2,900 gone. It was an expensive lesson, but fine. However, I was not going to eat her half. She was on the hook for her share of the non-refundable costs, which meant she still owed me the remaining $2,500 of her half, plus the additional $400 to cover her share of the sunk costs. $2,900 ners, $2,500. So she owed me a total of $2,900. Texting was out. This needed to be formal. I composed a new email. The subject line was clear and impersonal. Cancellation and final reimbursement for Italy trip. Booking ref IT 2025. The body of the email was polite, but firm. Susan, following the end of our relationship, I have begun the process of canceling our planned trip to Italy. As many of our bookings were non-refundable or carried significant cancellation fees, I have created a summary of the financial losses. Attached, you will find a spreadsheet detailing each booking, its total cost, and its non-refundable portion. I have also attached PDF copies of the original booking confirmations and their cancellation policies for your reference. The total non-refundable cost for the trip is $5,800. My share of this loss is $2,900, which I accept. Your share is also $2,900. According to my records, you have paid $1,500 towards your total $4,000 share of the trip. The remaining balance you owed was $2,500. This means you are still liable for your full portion of the non-refundable costs. Please remit the final balance of $2,900 to my account via bank transfer by October 9th, 2025, 30 days from the date of this email. If this poses a financial hardship, I am willing to discuss a reasonable payment plan. This is a purely financial matter I wish to resolve amicably. All future correspondence on this topic should be via this email thread for our records. Sincerely, I hit send. Then I went into my credit card portal and started the cancellation process for everything that was refundable. I got about $2,200 back immediately. The rest was gone. The response from Susan was not an email. An hour after I sent my message, my phone erupted. A string of calls, one after another, which I ignored. Then came the voicemails. The first one was pure rage. "How dare you?" she screamed into the phone. "You're stealing from me. That's our trip. You can't just cancel it and send me a bill like some kind of loan shark. This is completely insane, Alex. You've lost your mind. The second voicemail was tearful. I can't believe you would be so cruel. Don't you know how much that trip meant to me? Meant to US? You're just throwing everything away over one stupid comment. I don't have $3,000, Alex. Are you trying to ruin my life? I listened to both, then deleted them. I waited a day, giving her time to process that her emotional outbursts weren't going to work. When I still hadn't received an email, I sent a final short one. Subject: Cancellation and final reimbursement for Italy trip. Booking ref, IT 2025. Susan, per my previous email, all communication on this matter must be in writing. I have not received a response regarding the outstanding balance of $2,900. Please confirm by the end of this week if you intend to pay the balance or if you would like to discuss a payment plan. If I do not hear from you, I will be left with no choice but to file a claim in small claims court to recover the funds. Alex. The mention of small claims court was the kill shot. It moved this out of the realm of a messy breakup and into the cold black and white world of legal consequences. She knew I had every receipt, every confirmation, every bank statement. She had no leg to stand on. 2 days later, I got a terse email. Fine, I'll pay it. I'll need 2 months. I replied, that is acceptable. Please send the first payment of $450 by October 9th and the second by November 9th. She just replied, whatever. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about accountability. She had treated our relationship as a matter of convenience and security. I was now treating the financial fallout with the same impersonal detachment. This was just business. With the social and financial fires settled, I expected things to go quiet. For the first few weeks, they did. I blocked her number, but kept her email unblocked for our financial correspondence. I started getting back to my own life, hitting the gym, seeing friends, and enjoying the lack of drama. Liam and I went on a weekend camping trip. It felt good to breathe my own air again. But Susan wasn't done. Having failed to get a reaction from me directly and having been shut down by our friends, she went for the last resort, my family. My mom, Brenda, has always had a soft spot for Susan. She saw her as a lively, ambitious woman who was good for her quiet, reserved son. Susan knew this and cultivated the relationship, always remembering my mom's birthday, asking about her garden, and generally playing the part of the perfect future daughter-in-law. I got the call from my mom on a Sunday night. Alex, honey, I just had the most distressing call from Susan, she started, her voice laced with concern. She was crying. She said you two had a fight and that you've been completely ignoring her. She's worried sick. I sighed. I had been putting off this conversation, but I knew it was inevitable. Mom, we didn't have a fight. We broke up. Broke up? Over what? Susan said you got upset about something she said, but she feels terrible about it. Can't you two just talk it out? You've been together for 3 years. I knew I had to be direct. Vague explanations would just give Susan an opening to manipulate the situation. Mom, we were at Mark and Sarah's barbecue with 6 of our closest friends. Susan, after a few drinks, announced to everyone that I wasn't the kind of man she would ever desire or have fun with, but I was the kind she would marry. She said it like she was complimenting a dishwasher for being reliable. There was silence on the other end of the line. Oh, my mom said. Her voice was much smaller now. She said that? In front of people? Yes, I said. And when I left, instead of being sorry, she got angry at me for making a scene. Her apologies only came when she realized I was actually done. It was never about my feelings. It was about her losing her investment. I then forwarded her the email chain about the Italy trip. I just added a single line. This is how I'm handling the finances. I think it's fair. My mom read the emails while we were on the phone. I could hear her quiet clicks. Oh my, she said finally. This is all very businesslike, and she owes you that much money? Yes, and she's agreed to pay it. Mom, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to stay out of this. Please. Susan is going to try and use you to get to me. Don't let her. If she calls, just tell her it's between me and her and you don't want to be involved. My mom was hesitant, but she agreed. All right, honey, if that's what you want. I'm sorry this is happening. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Susan, rebuffed by my mother, tried a different angle. She tried to crash a family event. My cousin, Jessica, was having her engagement party in a few weeks. It was a big, catered affair at a local event hall. I knew Susan had been looking forward to it, mostly to show off and network with my extended family, some of whom are fairly successful. After we broke up, my aunt, who was hosting, called to confirm my RSVP and gently asked if I'd be bringing a +1, a clear signal that Susan was uninvited. I told her I'd be coming alone. In the meantime, something unexpected had happened. A woman I knew through my hiking club, Megan, had asked me out for coffee. We'd been friendly acquaintances for a while. She was a landscape architect, smart, funny, and refreshingly down to earth. We went out and it was easy. We talked for 3 hours. There was no pretense, no agenda. We went out again the next week. It was new, and I wasn't looking for anything serious, but it was nice. It was the opposite of my relationship with Susan. The night of the engagement party, I was feeling good. I was wearing a new suit, I'd just had a great week at work, and the drama with Susan felt like it was finally in the rearview mirror. I was standing by the bar, talking to my uncle, when I saw her. Susan had crashed the party. She must have just walked in like she belonged there. She was wearing a stunning, expensive-looking red dress, clearly chosen to make a statement. She zeroed in on me immediately and started walking over, a determined look on her face. "Alex," she said, her voice loud enough for a dozen people to turn their heads. "We need to talk, now." My uncle looked from her to me, confused. "Susan, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to talk to my boyfriend," she said, looking right at me, completely ignoring my uncle. "We're not together anymore, Susan," I said, keeping my voice low. "And you were not invited. You need to leave." "I'm not leaving until you talk to me," she insisted, stepping closer. "You can't just throw away 3 years of our lives because of one little comment. You owe me an explanation." The entitlement was staggering. She was making a scene at my cousin's party, demanding my attention as if it were her right. Before I could say anything else, another voice cut in, calm and clear. "Excuse me, I think you have the wrong person." It was Megan. I hadn't even seen her arrive. She had come with a mutual friend from the hiking club who was also a friend of my cousin. She walked over and stood beside me, not touching me, but presenting a quiet, united front. She gave Susan a polite, neutral smile. "Hi, I'm Megan," she said. "A friend of Alex's. He was just telling me about his new project. I think you might be interrupting." Susan's face was a storm of emotions. Shock, rage, and humiliation warred for dominance. Seeing me with another woman, a calm, confident, and beautiful woman, was something she had clearly not prepared for. It shattered the narrative in her head where I was sitting at home, miserable and pining for her. "Who the hell are you?" Susan hissed, dropping all pretense of civility. "Like I said, I'm Megan," she replied, her smile never wavering. "And you are making a scene at someone else's party. Maybe you should go." That was it. The public challenge, the utter lack of intimidation from Megan, it broke Susan. Her carefully constructed composure crumbled. "You did this to spite me," she shrieked, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You replaced me in a month? Is that all I was worth? After everything I did for you? After I was willing to marry you?" The word marry echoed in the sudden silence of the room. Everyone was staring. She had just announced at the top of her lungs the very transaction she had tried to frame as a compliment. She had exposed her own cynical, transactional view of our relationship to my entire family. My aunt and uncle were already moving towards us, their faces like thunder. My Uncle John, a man who does not tolerate nonsense, got to her first. "That's enough," he said, his voice low and firm. He gently but inexorably took her by the arm. "You're leaving, now." Susan tried to yank her arm away, but he was immovable. She shot me a look of pure hatred as my uncle escorted her towards the door. The last thing I saw was her furiously texting on her phone as she was ushered out. A moment later, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from Susan. A long, rambling paragraph of rage and insults. Then another. And another. Then my mom's phone buzzed. My sister's. Susan was carpet-bombing my family with her unhinged rantings. I didn't even have to do anything. She was doing all the work for me. The evidence of her instability was being sent directly to the people she had tried to win over. My mom just looked at her phone, shook her head, and blocked her number on the spot. The rest of the night was surprisingly fine. The family rallied around me. Megan was incredible, chatting easily with my cousins and aunts, fitting in without even trying. She never once mentioned the incident with Susan. She just acted like a supportive friend. It was a stark contrast that said more than anything else. The final payment of $450 from Susan arrived in my bank account a week early. The notification was from her father's bank, with the memo line simply reading, "Final payment." There was no email from her, no final words, just the money. It was over. A few months passed. Life was quiet and good. Megan and I were officially dating, and it was the healthiest, most respectful relationship I had ever been in. We communicated, we respected each other. There were no games. One Friday night, we were cooking dinner at my place, drinking a bottle of wine. We were planning a weekend trip, just a simple drive up the coast to go hiking. I pulled up a hotel booking site on my laptop. As I typed in the dates, I saw an ad in the sidebar for flights to Italy. I paused for a second. I thought about the $2,900 I had lost on that trip, the price of the lesson I had learned. Then I looked at Megan, laughing as she chopped vegetables, completely at ease in my kitchen. The loss didn't sting anymore. I closed the laptop. I didn't need to go to Italy to feel like I was on vacation. The peace in my own home was better than any trip we could have taken. I deleted Susan's email address and the folder with all the receipts. I didn't need the evidence anymore.